Young is here, and tonight our focus on the rift. Eldoret awaits the arrival of Uhuru Kenyatta. Is he still angry? Anger in mother tongue. We assess the president's elastic limit. Also on the show tonight, the permanent and now not so pensionable problem of Kenya's public wage bill. Are civil servants the problem? Meanwhile, the memo is back. And we'll also have the kick, the take, the punchline, and of course, the angle. But first. Francis, I have intelligence that you understand that language more than anyone else across this table. What is the most authentic translation of what the president is saying there?
Let me from the onset say, in terms of language proficiency, that language spoken there is my most proficient.
Okay.
What the president said was very, very rough. I don't want to go to the description of a specific word that he used there, but for purposes of this discussion, let me just say small boy. He said, I'm not their small boy, so that they can push me around here and there.
But that's a deep thing. It resonates with whoever I was speaking to.
It's a very, very deep thing, because it shows, don't joke around with me. I'm not as small as you think, and so on and so forth. Those specific members of parliament that, for purposes of this discussion, are allied to the deputy president, I dare say no. Because if he really wanted to speak to them, he would have called them or something like that. Maybe it was a statement that he was directing at his deputy via those members of parliament. And
are you saying he can't call his deputy?
Well,
he has a direct line.
He would, but for obvious reasons, he wouldn't confront him directly. But every so often he's sending some statements, some feelers that show you that he's directing his statements there to his deputy. And this goes to confirm what we said quite a while ago, that the relationship between the president and the deputy is no longer as it was between 2013 and 2017. Initially, we were told that the media is fomenting the division, is fanning the split, and so on and so forth, that wako sawa. But, you know, there are three things that you cannot hide for long: the sun, the truth, and a pregnancy.
But yesterday, the leader of majority in the Senate, Kipchumba Murkomen, was saying that, well, you know, if he was addressing if he were addressing the deputy president, he would not have used a language that the deputy president doesn't quite understand well. Linus, merit in that argument? Who was he speaking to? I mean,
no, not at all. No merit, zero merit in terms of the statement that was made by Murkomen, but very smart politically, because he's simply avoiding going into the path of what the president was saying. It's a very smart way of saying, I'm not willing to engage that on camera. But two things for me. One, the president appeared to be cracking under pressure. And number two, we said it here some time back, that the discomfort with the campaigns, the very, very clear campaign trail that the deputy president has been on, was going to actually explode at some point. And it did. There was a small sign in Mombasa when you remember him saying, "Our shenzi waachane na mimi," and then now he processed it further in Kasarani. But in my view, more as a result of cracking under pressure. Because let's look at the preceding week and the events that were taking place in central Kenya that time. There was a major event by Embrace in Murang'a. Yeah. And the event went on and had some very curious events that included Sabina Chege, the county, the MP, actually crying, shedding tears, and saying later that she was shedding tears for Uhuru. If you remember the ambience in that event, you can feel the political presence of William Ruto in central Kenya, in Murang'a. When I think one of
the numerous trips seem to have paid off in some respect.
It had paid off. It had paid off. So I would understand why the president would react that way, and especially by deciding to speak in his mother tongue. That's a clear sign that he's now no longer taking it for granted.
But what I'm not sure is clear to many people is if the relationship is as bad as it seems to be, even just talking to MPs from both sides, it is clear that there is something that has changed significantly in the relationship between the two gentlemen. So when does it come to a head? Why do we still have this make-believe world that seems to persist? Because if you talk to, for example, the deputy president will go and say, oh yeah, this is the guy who made me, would have been nothing. Everybody speaking publicly seems to be saying it's all rosy here, but when you speak to them quietly, or when they speak in their mother tongue in the villages, the story is quite different, Yvonne.
It sounds like a married couple that is bickering and is literally on the verge of divorce, but is not ready to say it publicly yet. You talked about they come out with a smile to face the world, and then you wake up one morning and you hear the couple has split, and you ask, well, but what happened? Everyone was saying, we're okay with each other. Talking of communication, and this is very classic in a relationship that, has broken down. These two do not seem to speak to each other about their issues. So they speak through proxies and blame everybody else. So the Tanga Tanga team,
the father kicking the children,
exactly. So you see what happens with Tanga Tanga. What do? They blame Raila Odinga for the wars in Jubilee, and they say, there's the handshake. When, the handshake was between two people. So it's an indirect way of saying, we're unhappy with the president, but they dare not say it in public. And likewise with the president, he dare not directly attack his deputy president, but chooses in mother tongue to then, attack his Mount Kenya MPs, when we all know, we know who they're talking to. And even that forced lunch, remember, this is the sign of a couple in trouble. The forced lunch, we're here, we're okay, we're fine. We have pictures, and it is so contrived. You can tell that, we're trying to paint the image. And maybe with the president reaching his elastic limit, whatever that may be.
Actually, Jamila, before you come, can we listen to that elastic limit? By the way, it came from Kanzadena. There's State House spokesperson, and we can actually hear what she said.
Nadhani mnajua ya kwamba rais ni mvumilivu. Na alikuwa amevumilia, na kila alipokuwa katika mikutano alikuwa anasema jamanini, tuachane nini na siasa, tuangalie maendeleo ya Wakenya na tuangalie umoja wa Wakenya. Akalisema mara ya kwanza, ya pili, ya tatu ikawa imekuwa wimbo. Kwa kweli kama wanavyosema katika fizikia, kuna ile inaitwa elastic limit. Wakati umefika sasa kuweza kufahamu ya kwamba maswala ya siasa hayataweza kupewa kipaumbele.
Does this not sound like a very frustrated spouse? I am tired. I have reached the end. It is my elastic limit. I have said this not once, not twice.
Elastic limit actually means when you have a rubber band, you stretch it to the point where it actually snaps.
But Joe, when the president was, when the president was speaking during the event with the Aquilino community, he specifically said that he was speaking to those MPs who are elected, who because of him, that's what he said, that's why they got elected. They used the Jubilee vehicle. Thugs. By some translation. And we saw some cutaways of some legislators looking all shocked of what the president was saying. But he was speaking to them. We can say he was talking to them, but indirectly alikuwa anamzungumzia naibu wake. But does he have a point that these gentlemen and ladies who seem to be sort of like shifting kidogo, wanamwepuka kidogo, did use the Jubilee vehicle to get elected? Because remember, in most of those areas, when you are the holder of the Jubilee ticket, you are like sure bet ulikuwa unaingia kiti kilikuwa ni chako. And he was the main ticket holder.
One of the MPs, Gachuri, was hosting on his show, Kererembi, on Inoro TV, actually said that they had the president's picture on their posters, but the president didn't have theirs. So there's
yes. But then now, Joe, I know we're going to speak about this also. The president is heading to Eldoret tomorrow. That is, of course, the home turf of Deputy President William Ruto, who is Member of Parliament for Eldoret North for the longest time. So anaenda nyumbani kwa naibu wake, which is well and good. But considering the way the political scene has been the past few days, of course, there was those who are saying, oh, pengine rais hatapokelewa vizuri and all that. Of course, today, the members of Parliament from that area are coming out and saying, no, isiyo siasa, any development. One, Oscar Sudi, the Member of Parliament for Kapseret, where actually that Rivertex facility is in Eldoret Town, was saying, ini siasa, so we have no problem with him coming here. But remember, some of them were saying that it's been a long time since the president was in that area of North Rift. The last time he was there was, I think, in November last year when he went for a KDF pass-out parade. And some say he has made numerous visits to Nyanza. And they're saying, oh, maybe he's not coming because of maybe some pre-election pledges have not been seen to come to pass, like better pricing for maize or his relationship with the deputy president. There are those who are also saying that because of the handshake, Sasa Rais and avoid this area, considering that we gave him a lot of votes in the past 2 elections. So they're feeling that, oh, maybe finally, Sasa, we are getting to see the fruits of those millions of votes that we gave to him.
You could say that if he knows he has these ones in the bag, he goes out looking for, there's
a parable, right?
Yes, about the guy who leaves the 99 sheep to go look for one that is lost, because the 99 are already in-house. Yeah. So there could be that dimension. But we'll get to Eldoret in a moment. But Francis, there's this idea of why the president spoke in Kikuyu, because even if he was speaking to those MPs, they understand English, they understand Kiswahili, isn't it?
Yep.
So why would he speak? Who else was he speaking to? Well, beyond the Akorinos and beyond the MPs, the handful of MPs who are there, who are from the region where that language is predominantly spoken?
I would want to paraphrase that question. What is happening in the Mount Kenya region? And probably that's why he opted to speak in a language that directly talks to the people in the Mount Kenya region. Truth be told,
yes,
he said something like that. Truth be told, the ground is not the way it was previously. I mean, there are people currently in the Mount Kenya region, and more specifically in the Central Kenya part, who will openly say the president is wrong. This is what we think, and it is not what he thinks. There are those who will say, okay, let's listen to what he's saying. He has a point that people, let's stop campaigning, and so on and so forth. But there are still fundamental questions that people in the Mount Kenya region are asking him. He made some certain promises when he was going around the counties looking for votes, and particularly during the voter registration exercise. He told them to turn up in large numbers, register and turn up and vote for him, and that they were going to get a certain amount of development in his second term. Actually, he was even giving it a narrative that it's like when you have food, there's some little food that you keep for your children. Once you have fed all the neighbors and the relatives, there's some little food that you keep for your child. And that little food will be unleashed in the second term. Only for the president to say that there will be no new development projects. And I started hearing people from the Mount Kenya region ask, okay, the stuff that you promised us, where is it going to come from? But that aside, the feeling that probably he's neglecting or anamruka naibu wake is also a question that he has to contend with, because people are asking him, okay, so you have ruked him, why? And on the other hand, the president is saying, hold on.
Isn't betrayal the currency of Kenya's politics?
Probably.
Since independence.
Probably it is. But you see, on the other hand, there are those who in the Mount Kenya region say, the president has a point. Guys, let's slow down, let's work, let's develop the country. At the opportune time, the president probably will lead the campaigns for his deputy in search of votes. But such political promises, do they hold? We've heard previously people who are told uongozi na urafiki ni tofauti. And probably that's where the deputy president is coming from.
We've never taken a pause from one election to the other, no. I think, since the return of multi-party politics. But Linus, this is a very interesting thing. It was a culmination of what has been increasingly an angry president who seems to be snapping from time to time. I know Kanze was talking about elastic limit, but he seems to have snapped quite a number of times. I guess for the last, almost throughout his second term, he's snapped quite a number of times. What's really making the president so angry, I would dare say frustrated?
I think there's a temperament issue and we've discussed that before. We've seen him getting angry at issues, at people. He would get angry at cabinet secretaries. But this is specific to the events that he has seen in central Kenya. And I think he's been quite irritated, and visibly so, with the ongoing campaigns for 2022 led by his deputy William Ruto, and his growing following. The other obviously irritating thing is how much political activity there's been in his backyard of central Kenya and behind his back. I think that was getting under his skin, that how can this be happening? I am in office. I'm supposed to be the holder of the key to the political door of central Kenya. And here is a fellow, and here are people. Ameingia kwa dirisha. You know, it's like you have your car key in the pocket, but then you hear somebody, you know, those
the
mechanics.
engine is revving, and
yes, then you wonder how is that?
Did you get there?
I equate, for example, what has been happening, and what particularly happened in Murang'a when people shouted that Ruto should also be greeted. That is an away goal for William Ruto. It's an away goal in central Kenya for William Ruto, and that's very, very irritating. That is why, and to the question you asked, Francis, about the president speaking his native language, because he's been pushed to that corner, he has to start defending himself as the ultimate spokesperson of the mountain region. That is why he said Ado Aito so many times. He's pleading. Are you forgetting me?
Can you hear me? Are you listening to me?
Are you listening to me? And this is the nightmare he has to deal with as a second-term president. I mean, cartoonists have become bold enough to actually say lame duck, and you saw how they drew him. Now, central Kenya functions that way. Ask Mwai Kibaki. Was he there to see his own succession? He wasn't there. He had a deputy called Kalonzo Musyoka. And how did he treat him? Mwai Kibaki went mute.
It was that bad you almost forgot the name of the deputy.
Yeah, he went very quiet about both his deputy and the whole succession question.
I would like us to look at the anger moments of the president so that we see whether this is really where the rubber band snapped.
Problem with our judiciary, but regardless, we respect, but we shall revisit. Wewe ukiwa muharibifu au mwizi kwa mali ya wananchi au ile tunaita critical infrastructure, hukumu hiyo inaitwa economic sabotage. Economic sabotage ni ile inaitwa capital offense. Yani ukihukumiwa wewe unaenda kinyonga. Walienda na wakaanza kulipa matajiri na wengine uko matraders, wakamaliza pesa kwa traders badala ya kulipia ule mkulima ambaye ametoa jasho. I promise you and I swear before God, you try that again and you'll see what is going to happen to you. Sisi hatutaki mchezo tena. Na nimewaambia, wewe kama huko tayari kufanyia wananchi kazi na jukumu lako ni siasa, piga about turn. Vijana niko nao wengi ambao wako tayari kufanya kazi. Why everywhere we go, it's the same issue, it's the same question? Why can't we just put it in place? Monica, can we agree that I will never hear that again in another diaspora meeting?
Okay.
The last one was in Namibia,
yes,
and the tirade was directed at CS
Monica Juma,
and I think
Najib Balala. I mean,
Kiunjuru was there.
And Kiunjuru was there.
Actually, he was accusing him that day of
not taking
Yes.
notes.
Yes.
But when you think about all of these times, try that again and you will see. Kama hamko tayari, tutatafuta wengine ambao wanaweza kufanya hii kazi. I mean, this elastic limit, you know the way we say in Swahili in Sheng, zusha, you know, zusha, alafu kasirika. And do something about it. I mean, the lame duck issue of being a lame duck president is of course a function of he's in his second term. But I think a lot of these issues, I'm sorry to say, the president might have brought on himself. With all of these empty threats, time after time, how many times has he reprimanded, for example, Mwangi Kiunjuri? 3 times. One of them in mother tongue. And every time he says, I'm going to do something, and he does nothing about it. That is why Kimani Ngunjiri, the MP in Nakuru, will say, usikasirike bwana, unajua mzee kama ukikasirika sasa itakuwaje? I mean, would you ever have imagined a point like that when an MP then responds to a president? I mean, after that tirade, there should have been, silence. In a household when the father roars and
people
all the children go
table.
silent and under the table, instead, the children are answering back. So there is something wrong here. I have another dimension and a perspective to this, aside from the president's temperament. It really does speak to, party structures. Jubilee is, a conglomeration of 14 parties?
Yes.
Francis, how many PGs have they had?
Two since the elections.
There you go. So
2013, isn't it?
Two since 2017.
Two since 2017, because that was when they now formally collapsed to form one party. 14 parties that you collapse into one. It is important to make sure you strengthen party structures, that everybody is aligned. All of these 14 parties feel like they are part of the whole, because it just seems like they're really fragmented. And this is why parties that are SPVs in this country, special purpose vehicles to help one gain an election. I mean, by now there should have been, and I think Alice Wahome, the MP for Kandara, mentioned this when she was on Hussein's show on Tuesday, that these are some of these things that should be discussed within the party. He should call up PG, call them to State House and say, look, this is what it is. But how much has been done? Has Jubilee had grassroots elections?
Nope.
Okay.
But who has?
But who has, to be fair? But then
ODM has tried.
ODM has tried, even with some...
and I'm not sure they're going back there
exactly.
anytime soon.
But this just says something about the party, the ruling party itself, that should really be able to hold together a little bit more. But when it was just something that came together and it served its purpose in 2017, that's how you have rebellion.
But that's how it's always
we
is in this country.
we have to take a break.
1 second before we take a break, because this I have to say. Remember, with all that's going on in central Kenya, and of course unasema situation on the ground, onekana watu wamekasirika na rais, he's actually planning a tour of central Kenya. I think anaenda kubembeleza watu, kuambia kwamba tuko pamoja. And I think for him this is very, very important in terms of central Kenya feeling neglected and wamesahauliwa, hakuna miradi ya maendeleo inafanyika hapa. In fact, I was hearing that he was supposed to go to Kenya at some point, constituency, to launch a few projects. It was postponed to a later date. So I think for him now, I'm on a situation kwa ground vile hiko, because you said outright rebellion, ikawa watoto wamekaa kwa meza wanajibu baba yao, is now being shown straight in his face. And I think he feels he needs to go back home, aende nyumbani, aende central Kenya, aambia watu ni mimi bado.
All right, let's take a break. News Gang is right back.